I am against the idea of boycott because I dream of a free, peaceful, and borderless world. Because I believe in exchanging unity, respect, and love between all human beings. And I believe I share this dream with most of the people on this earth. But then, why do I support the boycott? I actually support the boycott for the exact same reasons.
Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome to the media conference convened by BDS Switzerland here at Locarno on the occasion of the Film Festival's decision to collaborate with Israeli state institutions and to give a special focus on the Israeli film production. BDS stands for the International Palestinian-led campaign for boycott, divestment and sanctions against Israel until it complies with international law. Inspired by the South African fight against apartheid, it has forwarded three demands: the end of the institutional discrimination of Palestinians in Israel, the end of occupation, and the return of the refugees. Saleh Bakri is a Palestinian film and theater actor from Israel who has from Palestine. Who has performed in several international renowned and awarded films. I just want to mention Salt of the Sea by Annemarie Jassir, who, by the way, is one of the people who initiated the Palestinian call for this to this festival, and The Time That Remains by Elia Suleiman. At his side, Ronnie Barkan, an Israeli and maybe also Palestinian activist and co-founder of Boycott from Within, a group that joined the Palestinian call for boycott, divestment and sanctions, and that supports also the Palestinian campaign for academic and cultural boycott of Israel, which shortly is named PACBI. Then Mehdi Ben Attia, a Tunisian filmmaker who was invited, or who is invited for the Open Doors section at the Locarno Film Festival, and Ronnie Barkan, a Swiss filmmaker and producer living in Geneva, and his most recent film, Dawn, deals with Palestine under the British mandate. When the film festival announced in April the intention to dedicate the post-production section to Israeli films and to collaborate with the Israeli Film Fund for that purpose, several Palestinian filmmakers took the initiative to publish an open letter addressed to the film festival, and they asked them, I quote, to reconsider their relationship to the government of Israel and withdraw their partnership with the Israel Film Fund and the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and all other official Israeli entities. The responses of the festival, however, could be called arrogant and disingenuous. The festival just claimed to defend the freedom of art. It renamed the carte blanche. This was the section where the Israeli post-production should be shown. It renamed it into First Look, and at the same time it attempted to use Maghreb filmmakers as a fig leaf for justifying the collaboration with Israel.
Assalamu alaikum. I am against the idea of boycott because I dream of a free, peaceful, and borderless world. Because I believe in exchanging unity, respect, and love between all human beings. And I believe I share this dream with most of the people on this earth. But then, why do I support the boycott? I actually support the boycott for the exact same reasons. I support the boycott because I dream of a free, peaceful, and borderless world. I support the boycott because I believe in exchanging unity, respect, and love between all human beings. And I can say, from my own experience, that Israel is one of the main reasons why this dream, which most of people share, didn't come true yet. Of course, I'm not here to blame Israel for all the problems in this world. But I do believe that Palestine is the nerve of the world. Palestine, through history, was a meeting point between the West and the East. Palestine represents the multicultural society where Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish were living together in peace. Palestine is where prophets and gods were born. Palestine is their tragedy and the ultimate reflection of the injustice of the whole world. Israel, in the contrary, destroyed Palestine to build the complete opposite of all that beauty. A Jewish country instead of a country for all people. The result is that we Palestinians were displaced from our homeland. And for those who remained behind, we were labeled a demographic threat. We are still not allowed to return to our homeland, while every Jewish man and woman, no matter where in the world they come from, they are most welcome to Israel. Millions of refugees are facing death every day in Syria nowadays, and Israel acts as if it has nothing to do with it. Millions of Palestinian refugees in Lebanon and Jordan are still living without of basic rights since 1948, and Israel refuses to take responsibility for their hand in creating this refugee crisis. 1.5 million of the Palestinian people have been living in a big prison called Gaza for decades and facing brutal and aggressive war every 2 years since 2006, while 80% of the inhabitants of Gaza are refugees to begin with, who Israel forced them to leave their homes and lands during 1948. Jerusalem is isolated by settlements, walls, and checkpoints. Homes are being destroyed, rights are being confiscated, and more rules of discrimination are being defined. The West Bank is surrounded by apartheid wall, illegal settlements are being expanded daily, streets for settlers only for settlers are being built, administrative detentions, checkpoints, demolitions, and an aggressive oppression of the peaceful resistance of the Palestinians in the West Bank. In Israel itself, there are 1.5 million Palestinians who are considered citizens of Israel. I am one of them. We are not allowed to have our cultural independence. We are not allowed to have an Arab university. We are not allowed to expand naturally. We are not allowed to have independent education system. We are not allowed to speak of the Nakba, which is our catastrophe in 1948. Lands are still being confiscated to this day. Employees are still being fired because they criticize political views. Theaters are being boycotted and funds are being cut because of political views. Artists are being politically persecuted because of their political work. Some of our villages are not recognized to this day, and therefore do not get water and electricity and basic needs. ignorance and violence are spreading in our villages and cities. All of that is illegal, and all of that aiming to get us frustrated, which means give up or leave. What is this if not a hidden transfer? The Palestinians have the right to resist the illegal occupation, and despite the fact that it is a right declared by the international law, it is respected and necessary for the mental and moral health of the oppressed society. But whoever dares to hold a weapon and resist, he or she, if not killed, is directly portrayed as a terrorist in the Israeli media and the foreign ministry. And now, whoever decides to resist a non-violent, peaceful resistance and join the BDS is directly portrayed as an anti-Semitic by the Israeli media and by the foreign ministry, which the Locarno Film Festival chose to partnership this year with. The occupation of Palestine is a violation of international law and the Geneva Convention of Human Rights. Yet, we are still living under brutal military rule, and no one is doing anything. For those who have decided to resist non-violently, we chose BDS as one way to do it. I still don't understand. What is behind Locarno Film Festival insistence to give Israel such respect? Is it money? Because if it's money, we can arrange it for you. We can go to Gaza and collect for you some money. There is a lot to recycle after the war. What do you want us to do? To see our children burned to death and our future sent to hell and keep quiet because you choose to blindfold your eyes toward a criminal country in the name of the right of speech? What about our right to live? What about our right to resist? What do you want us to do? To commit a collective suicide, to create a new Masada, to prove to you that we are the Jews of this time? What do you want us to do?
Good morning. Thank you for coming here today. I would like to clarify a few things. There is a lot of misunderstanding about the idea of cultural boycott against Israel. Why do we boycott culture? So I would like to talk about the why and the how. First of all, why do we boycott Israel? Israel is a country, as Saleh mentioned, that practices belligerent occupation, colonialism, and apartheid. That's quite easy. That's quite simple. Why should we boycott Israel? Israel was built on top of Palestine, on account of Palestinians, by denying them their basic rights. And these rights are still to be implemented. This is what we're struggling for. This is what was discussed here. If you think that the boycott of apartheid South Africa was legitimate 30, 40 years ago, then you should definitely support the boycott of Israel today. About the how do we boycott? As opposed to the previous case of apartheid in South Africa, where it was a blanket boycott against everything South African, the Palestinian call for boycott is a very responsible call, which I'm very happy to participate in. I have the privilege to participate in that call. The Palestinian call for boycott makes a distinction between the individuals and the institutions. We do not boycott Israelis simply because they are from Israel. We do not care about the quality of their art or about their politics, we will not boycott them because they are from Israel, but we will boycott those who represent the criminal apartheid state. And unfortunately, many of them take upon themselves to act as cultural ambassadors to that state. So we would not have this press conference here if the Locarno Film Festival chose to bring Israeli filmmakers to participate in the festival. That in itself is not a problem. But the moment that there is the participation, the collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel, which is a tool of propaganda, the moment that the funding is received from that ministry, then that makes the whole festival boycottable, because we do not accept legitimizing the illegitimate. We do not accept granting a carte blanche to apartheid. Now they changed the name, right? From carte blanche to first look. It seems that the festival is both giving a carte blanche to Israel and also not bothering to take a second look at Israel. But if you take a second look, you will understand. It is quite clear what is happening there. And I urge you, especially the journalists in the audience, to take a second look. Don't regurgitate the propaganda that we hear about Israel being a beacon of democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East. It is not a democracy and never was a democracy, not even to begin with. It was founded on supremacist ideals. It was founded on the basis of ethnic cleansing and ethnic supremacy. So Saleh and I, some of you may regard us as like a Palestinian and an Israeli, but we come from the same place. We live on the same land. But we are not equal in any way other than being both human beings, because there is a clear situation of the oppressed and the oppressor, the apartheid people and those who are subjugated under apartheid. We both have an Israeli citizenship, but we don't have the same nationality. By law, there is a difference. So when we talk about apartheid, this is a crime defined in the Rome Statute. It's a very serious crime under international law, and this is what we are fighting against. The Palestinian call is actually so responsible that it accepts the fact that also those who live under apartheid still can participate in that, in the state. So, for example, filmmakers, Israeli filmmakers, may still get funding from the Ministry of Culture of Israel, which is not a beacon of democracy, as I mentioned. But there is a condition that the money will obviously not come from the propaganda machine. It will not come from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, but also that the money will not come with strings attached, that there will not be political ties, that they will not say, we will give you this funding, but you have to represent Israel in a certain way. So the Palestinian call is a very responsible call. However, the State of Israel, because it understands the power of culture, and they invest a lot of money and energy in trying to portray the nicer face of Israel, the smiling face of apartheid. They invest a lot of money in that, and they actually give funding to filmmakers, but they say you do have to represent Israel in a certain way. Recently, you may have heard of the case of filmmaker Suha Araf, who identified her film as a Palestinian film rather than an Israeli film. Since then, they changed their regulations, and from now on, the insistence of the Ministry of Culture of Israel is that every filmmaker will identify their film as an Israeli film. So they have nationalized, and they are forcing them, they are making sure that they will portray their film wherever they participate in every festival around the world as an Israeli film. The new Minister of Culture has taken things a step further, and she actually said that she will not support, she supports pluralism, but she will not support, in the name of pluralism, I quote, in the name of pluralism, she will not support the portrayal of Israel in a bad light. She will not support the portrayal of Israeli soldiers in a bad light. So this is all done in the name of pluralism. So I would first like to address the Locarno Film Festival directors and tell them that I think you should look seriously into what values does this festival represent, and what have you taken upon yourselves by participating in Israeli propaganda and giving a green light to what Israel does. And I urge you to go back to the values of art, to artistic values, and put aside those values that you seem to have chosen instead. To the journalists in the audience, I would urge you to take a second look about Israel. The situation is not complicated to understand. It is a harsh reality, but it is not complicated to understand. We have a clear case here of those who are the privileged, like myself, and those who are underprivileged. And we have to take a stand here, just like in the case of apartheid in South Africa. And finally, I would like to urge all of you to take a stand. To take a stand for what culture represents, to take a stand for pluralism, real pluralism, to take a stand for equality, freedom, and justice that we are all struggling for. And sooner or later, also in Palestine, we will see this day coming. Thank you.
Je suis un scénariste et réalisateur tunisien. Je suis invité par le festival à présenter un projet à Open Doors. Je voudrais dire que je suis là pour protester contre cette carte blanche et en particulier contre le partenariat financier entre le festival et l'Israel Film Fund. Il y a un an, ça fait pas longtemps, il y a eu des massacres à Gaza qui ont fait 2000 morts, dont 500 enfants. Une nouvelle ministre de la Culture a été nommée, dont certaines prises de position ont été rappelées. Le choix du partenariat financier par la direction du festival avec Israël s'explique en effet difficilement. Je veux dire en tout cas que la présence à Locarno ne saurait en aucun cas signifier une quelconque caution ou être instrumentalisée dans le sens d'une légitimation quelconque de la politique israélienne ou d'un premier pas vers une normalisation. Ça n'est pas le sens de ma présence ni des autres cinéastes ici. Voilà.
Merci, Mehdi Ben Attia.
Bon, bonjour, je parle aussi en français du coup. D'abord, j'aimerais exprimer ma solidarité envers les cinéastes du Maghreb parce que c'est assez terrible de se faire instrumentaliser comme ça par un festival. Après coup, disons, on n'a rien demandé, on est invité, on est là pour projeter son film et tout à coup on apprend dans les journaux que ah oui, en fait, nous sommes un festival ouvert, on a d'ailleurs des films du Maghreb. C'est insupportable de vivre en tant que cinéaste. Enfin, je suis content que je ne suis pas dans votre position. Et je ne sais pas d'ailleurs comment j'aurais réagi parce que d'un côté j'aurais bien voulu projeter mon film évidemment pour susciter des discussions et tout, et de l'autre côté c'est tellement insupportable que voilà, j'aurais hésité énormément entre me retirer et quand même être présent. Donc après j'aimerais vous parler d'une expérience qu'on avait vécue à Genève en novembre passé. Moi je suis aussi un membre du cinéma Spoutnik. Le cinéma Spoutnik, c'est une petite salle indépendante à Genève qui accueille chaque année un festival qui s'appelle Palestine, filmer c'est exister. Et donc en novembre passé, nous avons eu la mauvaise surprise que deux des invités des cinéastes de Gaza, il s'agit de Alam Dezoki et Atta Al-Jalali, ils n'ont pas pu nous joindre à Genève parce que les autorités israéliennes leur ont pas délivré les papiers nécessaires pour quitter le territoire. Donc c'était un peu un choc, et c'était tout à coup un exemple très concret de cette nouvelle politique, disons comme ça, enfin, je ne sais pas si c'est si nouvelle que ça, mais enfin de cette manière d'empêcher la liberté d'expression. Et après, quand j'ai appris aussi une manière très maladroite de se défendre, ils ont dit oui, on fait ça chaque année, on fait des cartes blanches, on a fait avec le Mexique, on a fait avec le Brésil, avec le Chili. Moi j'ai envie de dire, Israël n'est pas un pays comme un autre. Israël n'est pas un pays normal. Parce qu'un pays normal connaît ses frontières. Un pays normal, il sait où il commence et où il s'arrête. Tandis que Israël, depuis le tout début de l'existence, n'a fait que s'agrandir au détriment du territoire de la Palestine. Chaque jour, il grignote un bout du terrain de la Palestine. Ici, une nouvelle colonisation, là, un déplacement du mur vers les autres, là, un nouveau quartier de Jérusalem-Est. C'est assez insupportable comme politique d'extension, et c'est intéressant de constater qu'il n'y a pas de réaction officielle de nos politiques à nous. Si la même chose se produisait ailleurs dans le monde, vous pouvez être sûr qu'il y aurait eu déjà des sanctions économiques, qu'il y aurait peut-être même eu des interventions armées, mais en Israël, il n'y a rien qui se passe. Pourquoi il n'y a rien qui se passe? Tout simplement parce qu'Israël fait partie du monde occidental, fait partie de notre système à nous. Ça a été vrai dans le passé, actuellement c'est vrai quand on pense que les États-Unis versent 3 milliards de dollars chaque année pour la défense, enfin pour les forces armées d'Israël. On ne peut pas parler d'un État indépendant. Israël fait partie de notre système occidental. C'est donc pour ça que nous ne pouvons pas attendre que nos politiques à nous vont faire une quelconque déclaration contre cette politique insupportable de Israël. Et c'est pour ça que je suis convaincu que ça peut être que des ONG, que des mouvements comme celui-là ici, qui peuvent peut-être faire pression sur Israël, mais aussi pression sur nos gouvernements à nous, pour qu'enfin les choses soient mises sur la table et discutées.
I will make a short comment. The director of the festival recently said that the festival is independent. If they're independent, it even makes it worse. Why do they choose to do propaganda rather than art? Why did they choose to participate in state propaganda? And at the same time, driving away the people from the Maghreb, for example, you know, in the name of open doors, they have actually closed the doors on those conscientious filmmakers from the Maghreb.
Oui, bonjour, Stina Werenfels, réalisatrice suisse. Merci beaucoup mes collègues pour ces propos, c'est très important, votre cause. Et moi je parle de la côté suisse réalisatrice. J'étais vraiment choquée, je trouve insupportable qu'un festival que nous considérons être notre festival international important dénie le contexte politique d'une telle carte blanche. Et ça nous remet encore dans la position pseudo-naïve, neutre, et on ne veut pas un tel festival. On est des artistes avec une conscience politique, et c'est ça qu'on veut que ce festival représente. Et merci beaucoup, je crois que vous avez fait merveilleux, merci vos interventions.